What up, people? I got one question for you. How do you define rich? I asked a few people and I got different types of questions. I saw answers like when your net worth is over $1 million, or when you make more than $150,000 a year. I mean, all those are legitimate reasons to be successful. I mean, having a net worth of $1 million is great. Making over $150,000 a year is also great. But are you rich at that point? Here's my definition of rich. To me, rich is when your income that you're not working for, money that you've earned, invested, and those investments are then turning around and making you money. If those investments are spitting out enough money for you to not only cover your expenses. Covering your expenses is the first part. That's the hardest part. You get there, it's good. But I don't think you're rich yet. If you cover all your expenses and those investments are spitting out enough money to pay for your lifestyle, then you're rich. Because if you look, let's look at the net worth answer, right? Okay, so let's say your net worth is worth $1 million. If your net worth is $1 million, you're rich. Well, I would say, okay, I would go with that answer, but let me change things around. If your primary residence is included in your net worth, that doesn't count. In other words, if I bought a home in San Diego years ago and I bought it for $200,000, but today it's worth $900,000, well, I have $700,000 in equity, which is part of my net worth. But that doesn't count. In my opinion, it shouldn't count anyways, because you're living in it. You have to live somewhere, right? So how could you use that number to calculate your net worth? Now, if you have other assets, other rentals, other businesses, and those have a net worth over $1 million or at $1 million, then I would agree with that argument, because that can be sold and liquidated, even though it might take longer for some things than other. But if you sold them and liquidated them, you'd have that actual value. But with your home, you could do that, but you're uprooting yourself. You still got to live somewhere, right? So I would say the net worth calculation would work if you're excluding your primary residence. Then how about the other argument? The other argument I heard was, well, if you make over $150,000 or $200,000 or $250,000 a year, you're rich. Well, even then, what if you're an employee? If you're an employee and you make $100,000 a year, to make the math simple, 35% of that roughly is going to Uncle Sam, so you don't actually get to keep 100 grand. You're only keeping what, 65? So double it. What if you make 200 grand a year? Well, now you're only keeping what? What's 65 plus 65? 60 plus 60 is 120 plus 5 and 5. You're about 130,000 a year that you actually get to keep. Well, that's a little bit better, but you earn 200,000 to keep 130. So, I mean, yeah, I guess it's better off, but even then, let's say you make $500,000 a year. You're making $500,000 a year at work, but you're spending $500,000 a year. Are you rich? I know people who make a lot of money and spend a lot of money, but they are not wealthy. They're still living paycheck to paycheck. So I don't think it's $150,000 a year, and I don't think it's a net worth over $1 million unless you modify it. Now, if you're earning 100 grand a year, but all that $100,000 is coming to you from your investments, so I own maybe rental properties that earn me 100 grand a year, I don't have to work for them, then I would qualify you as rich. Now, $100,000 a year isn't the largest number in the world, but if it's money that you no longer have to work for, that's the kind of money you want. Okay? So, that's my definition of rich. What's your definition of rich? Comment below and let me know.